some more on what to expect at the Open on the markets here in Australia. Cameron Peacock joins us from IG in Melbourne now. Cameron, what do you think? Going to be a pretty flat start?
Yeah, good morning, Bridie. Yeah, you're right. We are looking at a fairly flat start for the local market today, maybe down about 1 point around that 44.23 level. But, overnight we did see European markets a little bit weaker. We had the FTSE, the DAX and the CAC all off between sort of 0.2 and 0.8%. And we've just seen US markets close a little bit weaker, modestly weaker. The Dow Jones down about sort of 45 points or 0.4%. Similar loss for the S&P. And we saw the NASDAQ up about 0.3%, thanks largely to, a strong day for Facebook. But, the losses we saw overnight coming off the back of a very strong week for global equities last week, where most of those major indices were up between 3 and 5%, so not unexpected to see a little bit of a pullback. It's interestingly, looking at the headlines at the moment, they're very, very predictable. On down days, you hear the markets fell on concerns over the fiscal cliff and Greece not getting its next bailout tranche. On up days, you see the markets rose on optimism that the fiscal cliff and the Greece situation will be resolved. But I think, these are headlines that really just masking the fact that, markets are up and down and really in a bit of a holding pattern at the moment. And, I can't really see the markets making a definitive break until we get some conclusive resolutions to some of these issues which we have been discussing.
Interesting to see that there was the retailers too pulling back stocks overnight as well, a sector that's really underperformed there. What's your sort of thoughts on the US holiday shopping season, the start of it with Thanksgiving, Cyber Monday underway today there? Any thoughts on, the fact that if the housing market's improving, surely that's going to flow through to that retail sector, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, over the last probably 4 to 6 weeks, we have seen some improving US housing data, and you're right, you'd expect that to flow through into consumer confidence numbers, which we have seen. And by all accounts, the start to the US retail shopping season or Christmas shopping season has been very positive. Record turnouts at a lot of the major department stores and shopping franchises were reported on Friday, and apparently Cyber Monday sales were very strong as well. I read this morning in an article that they were expecting US retail sales growth to be up about 12.8% over this 4-day shopping weekend. So, certainly some positive signs there that the consumer is feeling a little bit more optimistic.
I'm just going to ask you too, I mean, obviously markets are in a bit of a frenzy about the fact that the Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney has been appointed the new Bank of England Governor starting mid next year. What are your thoughts on this? He gave a press conference overnight, made some interesting comments there, talking about the fact that, this job is going to be a challenge. It's going to be where the challenge is greatest. It's understating it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think, I didn't know a great deal about Mark Carney until this morning. I suspect a lot of people are in that boat as well. But, very well-credentialed gentleman. The head of the Bank of Canada at the moment has an impeccable CV, guided Canada through the GFC, extremely well. They came out of it looking a lot better off than a lot of other countries. And so a lot of the articles that I've read this morning have suggested that, after a conclusive search that the Bank of England got their man. There's obviously going to be a lot of concern that, or some angst that it wasn't a British appointee, but I think markets seem to have received the appointment fairly well. It's interesting to note that we didn't really see much of a movement in the sterling on the back of it.
Okay, good to hear. Thank you so much for that, Cameron.
Thanks, Bridie.
Cameron Peacock there.